The narrative surrounding the discovery of the Americas is often taught through a simplified and Eurocentric lens, focusing primarily on Christopher Columbus in 1492. However, this traditional account is riddled with significant historical misconceptions. Here are some of the most prominent myths and the historical reality. Myth 1. Christopher Columbus discovered America. The reality. Columbus was not the first person or even the first European to set foot in the Americas. Indigenous peoples. The continent had been populated by indigenous peoples for tens of thousands of years, having migrated from Asia across the Bering Strait or by other means. For them, the continent was already home. To say Columbus discovered it is to negate the existence and sovereignty of the millions of people who lived there. Norse explorers, Vikings. Long before Columbus, Norse explorers, led by figures like Leif Erikson, reached the shores of North America, specifically an area they called Vinland, likely Newfoundland. Around the year 1000 CE, archaeological evidence, such as the site at L'Anse aux Meadows in Canada, confirms their presence. Myth 2. Columbus set out to prove the Earth was round. The reality? By the 15th century, the educated elite in Europe, including sailors and navigators, already knew the Earth was a sphere. This idea had been accepted since ancient Greek times. Columbus's mistake. Columbus's mission was to find a westward sea route to the wealthy markets of Asia, the Indies. His primary error was not in thinking the Earth was flat, but in drastically underestimating the planet's circumference and failing to account for the existence of the massive land mass of the Americas between Europe and Asia. Myth 3. Columbus was a heroic, benevolent explorer. The reality. While he was a determined and pioneering sailor, Columbus's arrival marked the beginning of centuries of devastating colonization, enslavement, and genocide for the indigenous inhabitants of the Caribbean and the mainland. Historical accounts, including those from his own time, detail a regime of brutality, forced labor, and mass murder under his governorship in the territories he claimed for Spain. The consequences of his voyages led to a catastrophic population decline among Native Americans due to European diseases, warfare, and enslavement. Myth 4. The Americas were a new world and an empty wild land. The reality. The Americas were a diverse and densely populated land with complex, sophisticated, and ancient civilizations, long before European contact. Sophisticated societies like the Maya, Aztec, Inca, and numerous North American cultures had developed advanced systems of agriculture, governance, trade networks, astronomy, and monumental architecture. Cities like Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, now Mexico City, were larger and more complex than most European cities of the time. The term New World is entirely a label from the European perspective, ignoring the deep history and established cultures of the existing inhabitants. In conclusion, understanding the true history of contact between Europe and the Americas requires moving beyond the myth of the lone European discoverer and acknowledging the pre-existing presence of indigenous peoples and the long-term, devastating impact of colonialism that followed Columbus's voyages.